Hello, good day to one and all. This is Miss A. Krishna Sundar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, KAHM, Unity Women's College, Mancheri. Today we are going to discuss the most popular poem written by Andrew Marvell, which is titled as To His Coy Mistress. So we have already done a session based on the detailed background of the poem. The biographical sketch of the author, the poet Andrew Marvell, has also been covered. We have also discussed what metaphysical poetry is, and we have gone through a few examples of certain metaphysical conceits. So here we go with the poem To His Coy Mistress. So before we start, there are a few things that we have to remember, which has already been discussed in the previous session. The very first thing, this is a metaphysical poem which has got a number of metaphysical conceits, and basically this is a seduction poem, a love poem. There is a male speaker who's continuously persuading the female character to come and fall in love with him and to indulge in a physical relationship. So there are just two characters which we can see within the poem, the male speaker and his lady lover. So this is a love poem, a seduction poem, and more than that, this is a poem of celebration. So the poem is actually divided into three different stanzas. So let's take a look at the three stanzas. The very first stanza begins with "Had we but world enough and time," which means if we had enough time and space. So this stanza is completely filled with a lot of ideas and imagination that is coming up from the mind of the male speaker. The second stanza, which begins with "but at my back," the speaker is pulling us back to the realistic situation. So this is a stanza which talks about reality happening around us. And in the third stanza, "Now therefore," the poet is actually giving a kind of solution for his lady. So the poem is actually like a mathematical equation. It begins with "if we had," and in the second stanza, "but this is a situation." And in the final stanza, he says, "Now therefore this is a solution." So an impossible situation, then a realistic situation, and finally he gives a solution to his lady lover. So let's move on to the poem. "Had we but world enough and time, this coiner's lady were no crime." So he says, if we had enough time and space. So remember, there are just two characters that you can see within the poem. One is a male speaker and the other one is a lady lover. We do not know anything clearly about the lady here. We only realize the picture of the lady through the eyes of the speaker. And as the speaker speaks, we understand that the lady is not giving a correct response to the speaker regarding his love relationship. So the speaker is continuously pleading and trying to convince her that his love is true and intense. "Had we but world enough and time, this coiner's lady were no crime." So he says, if we had a lot of time and space left with us, this coyness, the way you act now, the way you appear now, being a shy lady, this would not have been a crime, which means the lady could go on delaying the response. So we have to understand that the lady is not giving a correct response to the speaker. She is not saying yes to his relationship. At the same time, she is not giving a no reply and walking away. So she is actually taking a midway stand and confusing the speaker. And the speaker here says that if we had enough time and space, the way you behave right now could have been tolerated. It would not be considered as a crime if we had enough space and time. We would sit down and think which way to walk and pass our long love's day. So he says, we can imagine a lot of possibilities if we had enough time and space. We can think how to sit down, we can think how to think, we can think how to walk, we can think how to pass a long love's day. So, how to utilize this relationship? We can think of different possibilities if we had enough time and space. Thou by the Indian Ganges side shouldst rubies find, and I by the tide of Humber would complain. So he says if we had a lot of time at our disposal, we could have occupied two different hemispheres. You could have been at India near River Ganga, and I could have been by the tide of Humber. So Humber is again a river in England. So see the difference. He is talking about the lady sitting near River Ganga in India and he himself occupying by the tide of Humber. Now why is India being brought into the picture? The main reason is the context of colonization, because during the 16th century, Britain was becoming an imperial power, and Britain was in fact extending her colonies all over the world, and India too was a part of Britain's colonies. And moreover, the Westerners considered India as a very exotic place. So they naturally had a belief that wherever you go in India, specifically during the rainy seasons, specifically during the time when tides rise, okay, when you sit near these rivers and lakes, you could even get precious stones without any effort, because this was the kind of belief that the Westerners had. Definitely, India had a lot of natural resources, wealth, and precious stones, but the Westerners believed that wherever you go and wherever you walk in India, you can grab these precious stones because it is in such a way abundantly placed in these eastern countries. This was their belief. So he says, thou by the Indian Ganges side shouldst rubies find. So ruby is a very precious stone. Again, you can see the picture here. So he says, you can sit near River Ganga and you can collect rubies while I would occupy the seat near Humber and would complain. Now, he is imagining this separation because at times it is only when you get separated that you realize the intensity of your relationship. So, here he says that we could have tried all these methods if we had enough time and space. So, he's actually talking about the different options and possibilities. The lady, now look at the picture. On the left hand side, you can see a river Ganga, which is really a very beautiful picture, which really makes India an exotic place. And on the right hand side, you can see Humber. So he says the lady can sit in India and I can sit in England, and then we can exchange our intense relationship sitting at two different corners of the world. So in one way, colonization comes into picture. On the other side, separation will make the relationship more intense. That possibility is also here. Moving on, I would love you 10 years before the flood, and you should, if you please, refuse till the conversion of the Jews. So now he is bringing a lot of biblical allusions here. Now, biblical flood, which is in connection with Noah's Ark. This is a very famous reference which happened 4,000 years before. Now, this is actually considered as a beginning of life at one certain period because during the biblical flood, Noah rescued a male and a female from each species into his ark. So, life once again began from this particular time period. So, biblical flood is again a biblical allusion. So now he says, I would love you 10 years before the flood. So biblical flood is actually considered as a beginning point for the sake of reference. So he says, even before the beginning point, I would have started loving you. And you should, if you please, refuse till the conversion of the Jews. So conversion of the Jews means conversion of the Jews is basically associated with the end of the world, because the time when Jews get converted, that would be the end of the world. That is how it has been referred to in all of the books. So here he says this lady can continue to refuse to say no to him till the conversion of the Jews. So, see, the poet is actually breaking the time span here because biblical flood is considered as one beginning point and the conversion of the Jews is considered as the end of the world. But he is actually extending this demarcation. He is actually saying he would have started loving the lady before the flood, and the lady could have gone refusing till the end of the world. So, this is actually an exaggerated statement, and in literature, you call this as a figure of speech which is named as hyperbole. And please remember, the right pronunciation is not hyperbole. Hyperbole is wrong. The right way to pronounce this is hyperbole. So, this is an exaggerated way in which he is speaking about his love. My vegetable love should grow vaster than empires and more slow. Now, usually, vegetables they grow, it takes time to grow. At the same time, when it grows, it expands and grows. And that is why he says, my vegetable love should grow. Maybe this is the first time a poet is comparing his love with a vegetable. But here, the meaning is very different because a vegetable takes a lot of time to grow and it expands vaster than empires and more slow. So he's trying to tell the lady that his love for her is steady, is intense. Again, vaster than empires. The term empire is coming here because colonization was happening on one side. 100 years should go to praise thine eyes, and on thy forehead gaze. 200 to adore each breast, but 30,000 to the rest. An age at least to every part, and the last age should show your heart. For lady, you deserve the state, nor would I love at lower rate. So, right from the third line onwards, it's a huge set of exaggerated terms. He's just redefining his love through exaggerated words. He says he will take 100 years to look at her beautiful eyes and 200 years for each breast. So in total that will come up to 400 years, and for the whole body 30,000 years, and for each part an age. So see how exaggerated the terms are. And the last age should show your heart. Now this is where we get slightly doubtful about the speaker's relationship, because the very first thing that you might look into a person when you are in love is definitely the character of the person, or maybe the personality, his innate traits, rather than physical appearance, right? Physical appearance usually in love will be coming at a later stage. But here, the speaker is just concentrating on her physical body, and only in the last line he is talking about her heart. So, is he really in love with her, or is it just an infatuation that he has got towards her physical beauty? That's something which we have to think. For lady, you deserve the state, nor would I love at lower rate. So he says, you are such a beautiful lady and you deserve this kind of an honor. A man proposing this lady, you deserve the state, nor would I love at lower rate. And I would not be loving you at a lower rate. Coming to the next stanza, this is the second stanza. But at my back I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near. So time's winged chariot. So time is represented as coming in a winged chariot. Winged means definitely it can fly, which means time flies. So this is actually a reference to Helios, who is the sun god. You can see the picture. This is a picture of the sun god who is actually traveling in his winged chariot. So winged means, again, time flies. That is a concept which we have to understand. But at my back, so he is now talking about reality or the realistic situation. But at my back, I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near. So I can hear time's chariot coming and knocking. And yonder all before us lie deserts of vast eternity, which means once time captures, there is nothing remaining in front of us. And yonder means there. What lies before us would be deserts of vast eternity. So, by desert, the poet is talking about nothingness, because once you die, there is nothing left. Deserts of vast eternity. So, it's a very, very scary kind of an image that he is giving. Thy beauty shall no more be found, nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song. So once we die, so he's talking about death in an indirect way. Once we die, thy beauty shall no more be found. So one thing is sure, this lady is beautiful, because he is stressing that fact. He is emphasizing that fact again and again. So your beauty will not be found again. No, in thy marble vault. Now what is this marble vault? You can see the picture. Marble vault is actually a grave. It is a place where the dead body is buried. So he is giving a very scary picture. He's actually terrifying this lady and making her fall into his trap. So he's actually indirectly telling her that there isn't enough time left for us. So your beauty will fade. Before your beauty fades, before we die, let us indulge in a physical relationship. So he says, once you are placed inside this marble vault, my song will not be heard. You cannot hear my song again. So there are two other terms which are coming here. One is tempus fugit, which means time flies. Then again, there is another Latin term which is known as memento mori. So memento mori means remember you must die. So this is a kind of indication that you have to remember that your life is short. Now, another version is what you call as carpe diem, because in carpe diem, it means seize the day. Just because life is short, you have to enjoy each and every day. Live life to the fullest. Enjoy each minute of your life. That is what it means by the term carpe diem. So, moving on. The continuation of what he has already suggested, then worms shall try that long preserved virginity. Now, this is the most scary kind of the image that he is giving here, because now the lady is actually preserving her virginity by keeping herself away from a sexual relationship with the speaker. So remember, during the 16th 17th century, the chastity of a woman was very, very important in the society. So parting with chastity was equal to death. So now he says that if you are not getting on to a relationship with me, you will die as a virgin, and your virginity would be tested by the worms. So see, that's a very, very scary kind of picture. And your quaint honor turned to dust, and into ashes all my lust. So see how beautifully Marvel has pointed this out. Your quaint honor, because the lady, in fact, has an affinity for the speaker, but she is not ready to speak about that openly. So she is refusing this man continuously without giving a correct answer. And that is why he says your quaint honor means it is a pretension that the lady is actually following now, and that pretension is going to turn into dust and into ashes all my lust. Even my lust for you is going to be ashes. So again, my lust, it is not my love. So this is again doubtful whether he is just concentrating on the physical relationship or whether he truly has a relationship with her. The grave is a fine and private place, but none, I think, do dare embrace. Now, these are the two most beautiful lines of the poem. These are the two lines which you can learn by heart because you can quote it at any place in future. It's a beautiful line. The grave is a fine and private place. Very true. It's a private place because nobody would come to these kind of places. But none, I think, do dare embrace. It's a beautiful place. It's a silent place. It's a private place. But still, two lovers will not be embracing from the grave. Imagine if the speaker and the lady, if both of them are dead and gone in a grave, can they embrace each other? No. So death will take everything. That is what he is trying to portray through the second stanza, which is reality. So now coming to the third stanza, which is the last stanza, he is offering a solution to the lady. Now therefore, while the youthful hue sits on thy skin like morning dew. So please remember the rhyme scheme which the poet has used throughout. You can see it. See, hue, dew, again transpires, fire. So I'm not going through that because you can see that in all the stanzas he has repeatedly used the same kind of rhyme scheme. So now the solution is while the youthful hue sits on thy skin like morning dew. So youthful hue, hue means colors. So she has a very beautiful skin now, and her skin is just like a morning dew. Morning dew means, another interpretation here is that she is in the morning of her life, which means by the time it is afternoon, she will be in her 40s. By the time it is evening, she will be in her 50s. And by the time it is night, she would be in her old age. So a day is compared with the life of a human being. So right now, you are young, you are beautiful, and your skin is just like morning dew. And while thy willing soul transpires at every pore with instant fires, because this is the most energetic part of your life, your youth. You have a lot of energy, and your willing soul is transpiring with instant fires, fires of passion. Now let us sport us while we may, and now like amorous birds of prey. So he says, now that both of us are energetic, both of us are in the young stage, let us enjoy ourselves by indulging in a physical relationship. Let us sport us while we may, and now like amorous birds of prey. So see the comparison here. Now birds of prey are actually not very sweet kind of birds. Birds of prey can refer to birds like vultures, eagles, etc., which can catch prey and eat them up. So here see the comparison. He is not talking about sweet birds. Instead he says he would like themselves being involved with each other like birds of prey. So even though the word amorous is used, amorous is again in love, amorous is used here, birds of prey is in fact suggesting a tint of violence. So maybe a violent kind of physical relationship that he is actually thinking about. Rather at once at time devour than languish in his slow chapped power. So in the normal way, time will devour us. To devour means to swallow. Time will swallow us. So rather than time swallowing, let us make time stop, than languish in his slow chapped power. So instead of time consuming us, let us try consuming the time. Let us roll all our strength and all our sweetness up into one ball. So see, this is again a physical union that he is talking about. All our strength and all our sweetness up into one ball. Let us get united. Let us get into a physical relationship. But see the two terms which are used. One is strength and the other one is sweetness. So maybe strength is something which is masculine and sweetness is something which is feminine. So maybe that could be what Marvel tried to tell through these lines. And tear up pleasures with rough strife through the iron gates of life. So iron gates of life can mean the trials and tribulations of life, the difficulties of life. So all of us would be having a lot of difficulties in their life. But let us overcome these difficulties by involving ourselves in a pleasurable life. And more than that, tearing our pleasure through iron gates of life. Now, this can indirectly mean the first physical relationship enjoyed by a woman, the first time that a woman gets into a relationship. So, tearing the iron gates of life can indirectly even mean that. Thus, though we cannot make our sun stand still, yet we will make him run. So, throughout this stanza, he's talking about how time can consume us, how we would be swallowed by the jaws of time. He's also mentioning the fact that life is transitory. And if you look at this poem, the poet is arguing that there is no afterlife because there is nothing that he foresees after death. Because he says that in the second stanza, after death it is vast eternity. nothingness. So there is no afterlife that is being mentioned by the poet here in the poem. So this is how he concludes by saying that, thus, though we cannot make a sun stand still, yet we will make him run. Now you must have noticed that if you like something, maybe if you go for a movie, or sometimes if you sit in a class, in a normal classroom, if it is a very boring lecture, time will never fly. You keep looking to your watch, but you see the watch is just like being stuck. It never moves if it is a boring lecture. At the same time, if you're sitting in a very interesting class, you can see time flies. So this is a difference with the same time. If you are in a boring situation, time will be very slow. On the other hand, if you are enjoying something, time flies. And that is the reason why holidays will run and working days will move very slow. So he says finally, by giving a suggestion that though we cannot make our sun stand still, you don't have the power to make the sun stagnant, but we have the power to make him run, which means if you indulge in something which you really like, time will fly. So when time flies, automatically the sun will run. So instead of time consuming us, let us consume time. This is the final words. So this is a solution that he is offering to the lady, and he is still waiting for the reply of the lady. So in short, he says death will take everything, life is transitory, and therefore come and involve in a physical relationship. So with this, the poet concludes his poem towards the lady lover. Now, whether the lady might say yes or no is something which is left to the audience. Okay, so I hope all of you had got a clear picture related with the poem. So thank you very much. Thank you for your patient listening. If you have any further queries or any kind of clarifications, you can connect with me in my email ID. So thank you very much. Thank you.